From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. And we begin in Chile, where the Senate is set to vote on a bill regarding a second withdrawal by citizens of 10% from their private pension funds in order to face the ongoing economic crisis. After being approved by the Chamber of Deputies, the Senate Constitutional Commission analysed the bill in a virtual session and voted to approve it, with 3 votes in favour and 2 against. The Senate is now due to debate the bill on Friday. The government of Sebastián Piñera is opposed to the approval of the second withdrawal, as it was to the first. If approved, Chileans will be able to withdraw a further 10% of their pension funds before Christmas. 211 Venezuelans arrived in the country from Panama this Wednesday as part of the Return to the Homeland plan. The Venezuelan nationals arrived early morning on 3 flights operated by the state-run Conviasa airline to the cities of Caracas, Valencia and Maracaibo, allowing them to be reunited with their families. The transfer of these citizens was carried out in observance of all the necessary biosecurity measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The Return to the Homeland plan, promoted by Nicolas Maduro's government, has seen more than 20,000 Venezuelans return home from abroad on free flights. In Brazil, the crisis of the electrical system in the northern state of Amapá has worsened after suffering a blackout for more than 12 days. Businesses and local residents have expressed their discontent and claimed that the numerous blackouts have affected household appliances. They also denounced the suspension of essential services such as drinking water and the closing of stores, leading to food shortages. Amapá authorities announced that they are implementing an electricity rationing plan in 14 districts of the state after a fire on November 3rd in the state substation, which sparked the current crisis. Health sector workers in Uruguay began a 24-hour strike this Wednesday. Unions estimate that a total of 15,000 health professionals are participating in the strike action. They're demanding better salaries while also denouncing the deterioration of their working conditions and the erosion of their labour rights over the past few years. Sector workers are calling on the government to implement mechanisms to strengthen healthcare in the midst of the crisis sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. Healthcare centres said they will continue to attend to emergency cases throughout the strike. And continuing in Uruguay, excavations have resumed at the La Tabla barracks to search for the remains of those detained and killed during the military dictatorship. Our correspondent Mateo Grill brings us the details in the following report.
At the side of a small bridge very close to La Tabla's barracks in the region of Lezica in the north of Montevideo, between bushes, water and mud, the land could hide many secrets. This week, the National Institution of Human Rights and Society Demands for Justice in Uruguay began a new searching period for the remains of citizens who were detained and disappeared during the last civic-military dictatorship.
What remains now is to improve the work, to do a deeper job in the whole area, because the testimonies indicate that there could be possible remains of the disappeared detainees, and well, the task of the institution is to verify these hypotheses, all those that appear, and to be able to work to verify or discard them.
The former clandestine detention center La Tablada is located in that area, where over 300 political activists were detained, kidnapped and tortured from January 1977 to 1983. At this stage of the search and after receiving new data, the team of anthropologists, together with personnel from the municipality of Montevideo, will carry out excavations in an area of 350 square meters.
Now the task is to eliminate the bushes. Then begins the identification of the area where they have defined to dig. They put stakes, define the area, and then they go digging chunks by chunks without leaving space between one and another, so that they can verify the whole area.
The remains of 11 detained and missing citizens are sought on the grounds of La Tablada's barrack for the human rights activist Javier Tassino, whose brother Oscar was killed there and is one of the disappeared to this day. The opportunity is good to continue building a better democracy.
This is a democratic process. With the search, we do nothing more than help democracy, to make the country more and more democratic. That's why we believe that is positive and well. The expectations are there, and the equipment is there already installed. It is being installed and well. This will be searching days.
According to different investigations, in this place were seen for the last time the activists Omar Paita, Luis Arigon, Amelia Sanjurjo, Oscar Baliñas, Eduardo Gallo, Carolina Barrientos, Carlos Cabezudo, Celica Gomez, Ricardo Blanco, Felix Ortiz, Miguel Mato, and Oscar Tassino, who still remain missing. Uruguayans continue to demand memory, truth, and justice. Mateo Grille, teleSUR, Montevideo, Uruguay.
Tropical depression Iota dissipated this Wednesday morning after tearing through Central America. According to the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Hurricane Iota degenerated into just remnants Wednesday morning after forcing thousands of Central American residents to evacuate their homes as it tore through the region. Losing its status as a tropical depression, Iota lost strength over land with its maximum sustained winds down to 30 miles per hour. Iota is expected to continue to move over El Salvador for the remainder of Wednesday before it fully dissipates, but will still bring heavy rains. The centre said some parts of Central America could see up to 12 inches of rain this Wednesday. Having made landfall as a Category 5 hurricane in Nicaragua on Monday, Iota posed further dangers of flash flooding and landslides. At least 6 deaths have been reported in Nicaragua, while in Honduras, floodwaters pushed thousands of families out of their homes and into shelters. Women have taken to the streets in the Argentine capital, Buenos Aires, to celebrate the announcement by President Alberto Fernandez on Tuesday that he was bringing a new bill on legalising abortion to Congress. Argentina's parliament will once again debate a bill on the legal termination of pregnancy, marking a triumph for the Green Scarf campaign, which has garnered international support and in fulfilment of an electoral pledge made by President Fernandez. In a country with a Catholic majority and the birthplace of Pope Francis, the first historic initiative to legalise abortion was discussed in Congress in 2018 and approved by lawmakers but narrowly rejected by the Senate. In a video broadcast on Tuesday on his Twitter account, President Fernandez announced the sending of the text to Congress and said the goal was to ensure that all women have access to the right to comprehensive healthcare.
To hear Alberto present the villain that he has heard our demands and the demands of women who have been calling for this many years, it's pure emotion and pride. I have great optimism that this project is going to be approved for the whole movement of women and diverse groups that we have been pushing for a very long time. We have been participating in the campaign for 15 years, and I believe that this year is finally going to be law. For us, besides recognition of the militant struggle, the feminist wave in our streets is also about deciding about our bodies, and the reality is that today we're in the streets asking for abortion to be legal in Argentina.
Weeks after arresting Mexico's former defense minister on drug trafficking charges, the United States has agreed to drop the charges and return General Salvador Cienfuegos Cepeda to Mexico so that authorities there can undertake their own probe into the allegations. The US Department of Justice announced plans to drop the drug trafficking and money laundering charges against Cienfuegos and return him to Mexico, where he could potentially be prosecuted. Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard noted that the general is set to return to Mexico as a citizen repatriated by the US authorities and will make himself available to the Attorney General's office, but is not detained. The withdrawal of the accusations was surprisingly requested by the US government after intense negotiations with the Mexican authorities. A minister during the government of President Enrique Peña Nieto, Cienfuegos was arrested on October 16th in Los Angeles, California, accused of helping a drug trafficker known as H2 to traffic drugs to the United States between 2015 and 2017 in exchange for million-sum bribes.
If a judge accepts the request from the Attorney General of the United States and the Justice Department in particular, we will be alert for the transfer of General Cienfuegos back to our country. Cooperation with the United States is based, as it should always be, on mutual respect to our sovereignty and our institutions. There is no impunity for anybody, but at the same time, we will not allow the fabrication of charges in any given case. Yeah.
A French government spokesperson said Wednesday that the nation is still far from returning to normality, adding that the country has not won the battle against the COVID-19 epidemic.
What is being discussed at the moment, though about work done and if necessary announced, is that there may be an adjustment to the lockdown from December 1st or the days around it. But we are still far from the confinement. We are even far from it. There is talk of a possible adaptation of the lockdown from December 1st if the health situation allows us to do so. I insisted during my introductory speech, and I'll do it again, on the fact that we haven't won the battle and the fact that to relax our efforts today by having or giving the feeling that this battle is behind us would be dangerous for the health situation of our country and therefore for the safety of the French.
And around 33,500 people are currently hospitalised with COVID-19 in France, of whom nearly 5,000 are in intensive care units. French daily case numbers have been falling since a new nationwide lockdown was imposed on October 30th. However, the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases surpassed the 2 million mark on Tuesday. The country has reported over 46,000 COVID-19 related fatalities since the outbreak of the epidemic. South Australia announced a 6-day lockdown for its nearly 2 million people this Wednesday to contain a sudden coronavirus outbreak that ended a months-long streak of no infections. Schools, shops, pubs, factories and even takeaway restaurants were told to close at midnight, and stay-at-home orders were issued for residents across Adelaide State. A total of 22 cases have now been linked to a cluster that emerged from a hotel used to quarantine travellers from overseas. The state is the first in Australia to issue a blanket ban on outdoor exercise, and mask wearing will be required across the state, which had not recorded a significant outbreak since April. Australia has been relatively successful in containing the virus, with over 27,700 cases and 907 deaths recorded since the start of the pandemic. On Wednesday, German police fired water cannons to disperse thousands of unmasked protesters who had gathered in central Berlin to demonstrate against government measures to cut the spread of the coronavirus. After repeated warnings for the crowd to put on their nose and mouth coverings went unheeded, police said they would take action to clear the protest and detain violators. As water was sprayed on the crowd, protesters chanted shame and refused to leave the site. Around 5,000 activists massed at the Brandenburg Gate after the German government banned rallies outside Parliament over police warnings the demonstration could turn violent. To date, Germany has confirmed more than 833,000 COVID-19 cases and over 13,000 deaths. The European Union has warned that key recovery measures in France and Italy are not affordable in the long term, while expressing fears over massive debt spending in Europe.
So let me conclude with a call to all member states to show a strong sense of responsibility to their own citizens and to all Europeans at this crucial moment, and to get this recovery plan over the line. We address then two particular issues. One is measures that appear not to be temporary. And this is something we address especially for measures in the plans of France, Italy, Slovakia, and with a different extent, Lithuania. I want to clarify that this doesn't mean that we are not approving, supporting, or we are considering negatively these measures. The problem we are addressing is the problem of their non-temporary nature.
Israel launched air raids against 8 alleged Iranian targets in Syria on Wednesday, causing the death of 3 soldiers and injuring at least 4 more. According to a spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces, the attacks on Syrian soil extended from the border area to the outskirts of Damascus, and among the alleged targets was a military base at the Damascus International Airport, which Israel claims is a secret military installation hosting Iranian forces. Syrian forces have denied Iranians or Lebanese were among the casualties. Israel has stepped up attacks on what it says are Iranian-linked targets in Syria in recent years, but Wednesday's attack struck a far wider range of targets than usual, and the Israeli military was more forthcoming about the details than in the past, suggesting a clear aim to send a public message that it will pursue its policy of striking across the border despite US President Donald Trump's election defeat. On Wednesday, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani described the Trump administration as unruly, while noting that a Biden administration could bring back the atmosphere of dialogue that prevailed when the landmark nuclear deal was struck in 2015.
Some think that when we say the situation will improve, we want to negotiate with the US. This is not about negotiating with the US. It is a different issue. The new administration in the United States will return the situation towards respecting regulations, as much as they used to, because the previous US government did not respect all regulations anyway. But the last US administration was unruly. Now they return to this situation, and that situation can bring back the atmosphere, meaning that we can gradually go from the atmosphere of threats towards an atmosphere of opportunity.
COVID-19 cases in Iran continue to rise as the nation reported more than 13,000 new infections in the last 24 hours, setting a new daily record. 482 COVID-19 related deaths were also reported in the past day, the second highest daily figure. To date, Iran has confirmed more than 800,000 COVID-19 cases and nearly 43,000 deaths. Meanwhile, more than 576,000 patients have recovered from the virus. Iran is fighting on a double front against the COVID-19 pandemic as it faces the coercive US sanctions, which make the purchase of medicines and supplies even more difficult. US regulators have approved Boeing's 737 MAX to fly again 20 months after the manufacturer's best-selling plane was grounded following 2 fatal crashes caused by design flaws. The Federal Aviation Administration has rescinded an order grounding the aircraft in a move that could allow the planes to fly again before the end of the year. However, the US regulator must approve new training programs for pilots before the 737 MAX will be able to fly again. The European Aviation Safety Agency, the other key regulator in global aviation, has also indicated that it's likely to give approval to the plane soon, meaning a return to the skies is imminent. While other countries have the power to block planes from flying in their airspace, in practice they take their lead from the US and EU. The 737 MAX was grounded in March 2019 after 2 planes crashed, causing a total of 346 fatalities. On Wednesday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Xiao Lishan urged countries, including the United States, to stop using religion as a pretext to interfere in other nations' internal affairs. The remarks came after US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo criticised China's religious policy.
Pompeo and certain US politicians have been habitually criticizing, slandering and smearing other countries on the so-called religious freedom issue. The Chinese side has stated its position about this on many occasions. We are firmly opposed to relevant countries ganging up with the US to interfere in other countries' internal affairs. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. We urge relevant countries to earnestly abide by the One China principle, respect China's sovereignty, refrain from providing a stage for Taiwan independence secessionists, and from making any form of official contact with the Taiwan authorities. Any attempt or act that violates the One China principle and seeks external interference to sabotage cross-strait relations is doomed to fail. Compared with the situation in China, the religious situation of the United States is truly worrisome. There is a long-term and systematic problem of racial discrimination in the United States. According to poll results released by Gallup and PEW Research Center, 75% of American Muslims believe that their community is seriously discriminated against in the country. We urge politicians from individual countries, such as the United States, to look in the mirror and examine themselves and stop using religious issues to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. We also advise the countries concerned not to be trapped by the United States and used as its chess pieces.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo declared the end of its latest Ebola epidemic this Wednesday, thus closing the file on an outbreak in the northwestern province of Equateur that claimed 55 lives over nearly 6 months.
The major success factor in the response of the 11th Ebola epidemic was linked, among other things, to the availability of vaccines and drugs specific to the Ebola disease and the proximity of advanced care sites to the community. A total of 130 cases, of which 119 confirmed and 11 probable, with a lethality of 42.3%, that is 55 deaths, including 2 care staff. As we declare the end of this epidemic, the Democratic Republic of Congo continues to face the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to overcome this scourge, the Congolese population is invited to scrupulously respect the measures that have been put in place. Therefore, it is important that at all levels we are truly vigilant so that we can be extremely reactive and able to contain all these public health issues.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss and thank you for watching.